It's now about 27 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Kimberly De Souza. Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, on Thursdays, we focus on Tobago, and so we are going to take a look at its agricultural sector and some of the challenges faced by the Tobago farmers. Here to talk more about this is the president of the Tobago Agricultural Society, Mr. Dedan Daniel. Mr. Daniel, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Hello, good morning, and thanks for having me, and thanks to your viewers and your listeners.
Nice. Now, Mr. Daniel, how does the increased prices in feed and agri-products worldwide affect Tobago farmers in terms of the produce prices?
Oh, well, certainly you're gonna have that's gonna have a knock-on effect in terms of the price that the consumer would pay. Right now, particularly people who do it like chicken, who do sheep and goat and so on, are affected by the increase in price. It's increasing their cost of production, and like I mentioned earlier, it's definitely going to have a knock-on effect in terms of the actual price that the customer or the consumer is required to pay. So it's really having a deleterious effect really on these farmers.
Can you tell us, or can you quantify for us exactly what that increase is going to look like? Is it $1, $2?
So far from stickling farmers, we're talking probably between 20 to 35% increase in prices. Because the scarcity, of course, would cause an increase in price, and the price that farmers would normally pay at the different feed depot and so on to get feed has increased significantly, and also the availability is an issue because it has to be transshipped over onto the island, and that too has its challenges. So we having scarcity as well as price increase.
Right. And putting, of course, the issue of the dry season into this, how did it affect the quantity and the quality of the produce, put out by the farmers?
Well, the farmers are trying their utmost best to try to maintain the quality of the output. Of course, they have to absorb some of the price. Some, of course, is passed on to the consumer. But from what I've noticed, after 3 or so days, I actually visited a chicken farm just to see the operations and so on, and the feed has been cited as one of the challenges, as you mentioned before. But in order for them to maintain their customers, they really have to try to maintain the quality in terms of the feed. So what has been happening is some experimenting with different formulations that will be able to maintain the type of weight and the fat protein content of the chicken, for example, so to maintain a certain type of quality. So some innovation is happening on the ground, so to speak.
Nice. Now, in terms of innovation, Mr. Daniel, because I know that we are in the dry season, but we're moving toward the rainy season. Did it affect it at this point before we move on to when the rains are expected to come?
Well, I didn't look into my crystal ball this morning, but we kind of hoping it will start this week. But because the rain we had over last week, it was quite welcomed because the dry season has been really, really harsh to farmers, and some of them have challenges with their water supply and irrigation system. But we don't have any factual. At this point, I have no actual factual information to say when the rainy season is going to start. But we hope it could start yesterday.
Now, let's of course shift gears to the COVID-19 pandemic. It would have affected all sectors. I'm just wondering how it would have affected the sector, the farmers, of course, in Tobago. And were there any challenges in exporting anything outside of TNT?
Yes, exporting will be an issue because the different regimes that are in place, like the Food Safety Modernization Act, in order to get stuff into Europe and so on, that has a certain phytosanitary challenges. But the real impact it had for us is the local market dislocation, right? Because when the hotels and restaurants are closed, it means therefore that farmers aren't able to sell their produce to these entities. So that local market disruption has had an impact, added to the fact that a lot of persons, and welcoming so, have get into home gardening. So there have been some level of market disruption where that is concerned. So, but mainly the impact has been the dislocation, the moving around to farms and so on, although they have been released in terms of farmers being able to move to their farm plots and so on pretty easy, unhindered by the regulations. But it has, in the earlies, it has been an impact, but that has been remedied somewhat. But the major impact has really been with the whole market dislocation, with all those hotels and restaurants closed.
Now, Mr. Daniel, though, with the market dislocation that you're referring to, did the pandemic have an actual effect on sales during that period?
Well, definitely, because a substantial portion of the sales that farmers would make would be to these entities, because they take bulk orders to for their meal plans for their patrons and guests. So with that market no longer really available to the farmers, they'll have to find other means to get their stuff done. A lot of them have been involved in van sales, making up other type of marketing arrangements and so on. So it has impacted them in that respect, in terms of getting ready sales for their produce that they would have been accustomed to with the hotels and restaurants. But some have been able to shift by doing their own retail sales, and some catering operations and so on have been able to do it. But with the lifting of some of the restrictions, we've seen a kind of rebounding on the industries, right? With some hotels, restaurants, and caterers.
All right. Now, Mr. Daniel, with the reopening of these sectors and, of course, that rebounding, as you just mentioned, I mean, will farmers ever revert their prices? Will they ever, or will we ever see a decrease in prices?
Well, prices is always determined by the market, right? There's that intersection between what the consumer could pay and what the farmer could produce. So obviously the farmer will hope for the best price, because we living on the margins. The margins are very low. In the whole value chain, farmers make the least money. The wholesalers and so on, these are the people who really make the money. So that is a conversation that needs to happen throughout the whole value chain. But as it relates to farmers, we try to be as competitive as possible. Our customers are also our family, given the small environment that we live in, and we try to have an equitable balance between what prices should be and what people could pay. And the market definitely will determine what the price will be.
Mm. And I mean, I just wanted to get your thoughts, Mr. Daniel, on suggestions on what we can do to, really encourage customers to buy local.
Well, one of the things that we have going for us here in Tobago with the farmers are concerned is that we have always had a tradition of producing healthy, wholesome food. We're not too into the chemicals and that kind of stuff. So you could be assured that your food and nutrition security is security with farmers in Tobago, by and large, right? So while we do consume quite a lot of food from outside sources, I would like to encourage our consumers, because we produce the healthier, more wholesome food, to patronize the local farmers. The prices are competitive, even amidst all the pressure some imported produce. But we try to produce a quality product that will ensure that your health, which is your wealth, is ensured or secured. So my thing again, support all the local farmers. Seek them out. You could contact the Agricultural Society. You could get a list of farmers who actually produce stuff. Join our virtual markets and be able to get access to farmers' produce.
Nice. And Mr. Daniel, we have just about 30 seconds remaining in the interview. Any closing thoughts?
Well, other than to continue to support the local farmers, we are hoping that the authorities that we work on some of the long-standing problems we have in the farming community, things like access to land, to deal with predial larceny, to deal with the different pests, both human and those that have wings. We also want to deal with the whole issue of the market, the marketing infrastructure, wholesale market. We need abattoir. There's a lot of things. We want to encourage more youth in agriculture by granting lands to the youth so that they could be involved in the sector to relieve the problem of our aging farming population. So these are some of the key issues that we want to have addressed in the wider sector as time goes on.
Great. Mr. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us on the Now Morning Show on this, of course, Tobago Thursday, and just sharing some of the challenges that the farmers are facing. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. And thank you for having me.
And that was Mr. Dedan Daniel, who is the president of the Tobago Agricultural Society, just sharing some of the challenges faced by the farmers, talking about prices and, of course, how the pandemic would have affected the farming community. You're on the Now Morning Show. It is Tobago Thursday. We're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.